Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder, kind of on this topic of the Sfumato technique and kind of delineating the spaces around something to define the thing itself. I wonder if this is tied to your writing practice, especially as you've started to explore it more formally in something like Write to Know You. It seems like we often define and know ourselves through the things we do. And I think that's especially true in this culture where when somebody says, so, hey, who are you? It's nice to meet you. And you start to give a litany of, well, the stuff you do professionally, right? Americans tend to introduce themselves in terms of what they do. And yet you're taking a different approach to getting to know yourself through this exercise that is at once structured, but is also able to sort of work around the boundaries, right? So I wonder if you could tell us more about the Write to Know You approach and how it might be tied to this question, both the boundaries and interdisciplinary thinking and interconnectedness.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, the right to know you kind of came from a bunch of, disparate things kind of being all smashed together. One other thing that I had done for a lot of years, I was actually a CrossFit trainer at a CrossFit gym for, 5 or 6 years, and I would coach athletes, and there was a very, kind of strict program every day. Here's what we're doing. There's form, there's technique, there's accountability because, hey, Shannon, me and you are in the same class. We're lifting this thing. You're pushing me. I'm pushing you. And I learned a lot coming out of that world and how to take people uh, from a barrier that stands in front of them through that barrier or around that barrier in by
Mm.
helping coaching and talking and all that stuff. So I took that and I took this writing experiment that I did on my own for a year and a half, and I kind of pulled together this program that actually, in my mind, it allows you to have these conversations with yourself, right? How often are you able to talk to yourself about, really anything? I mean, you probably know your best buddy better than you know yourself sometimes because, when you have the ability to handwrite, number one, handwriting is a big part of the one of the pieces of the program. It activates your brain in a very interesting way, and also doing something without expectation, right? What I mean by that is, like, as I'm writing, I'm working very hard, and over time, this happens over time, working very hard to silence the little thing that's sitting on my shoulder that says, "You're not a writer. What are you doing? Who do you think you are doing this thing?" And, navigating that voice and just finishing the writing. But by doing that, these little pieces come together in interesting ways. So there's the capture, there is the sharing piece. So the sharing piece to me is almost more important than the capture, right? Because if we have a group, and the way we do this is usually in cohorts of, 10 to 15, and it's a a very closed community, kind of a safe place for everyone to kind of open up and really foster that kind of environment for this. But after that weekly writing, you push out something for the group and you go through that critical thinking process, that synthesis that allows you to really connect these dots through your writing. And then by sharing it with other people, you learn empathy because, you're going to give someone the attention and the care that they deserve when they post something just like you do for them. So
Mm.
I know I kind of rambled a little bit on that, but, that's it's kind of how all of this stuff comes together. One last analogy that I'll give you. We talked about the conveyor belt and all of these little nuggets that you get out of writing and sharing and feeding this system. Is I realized, how like airplanes fly, right?
Hmm.
You get on a plane in Atlanta and you're going to land at JFK in New York, and your ticket says origin and destination. But throughout that whole flight, there are many waypoints all the way through the flight path that are check-ins from that pilot to waypoints on the ground, right? So if we think of like how we evolve and how we emerge, just like my career has emerged in various different ways, I'm not going from A to Z. I'm going from like A to A1 to C4 to, F5 and then back on the main. I mean, it's more of this orthogonal thing in waypoints versus like this linear path.